All right, what is going on, Amazon sellers? Welcome back to the weekly live news and Q&A show for you people. I'm Chris Grant, along with my magniloquent co-host Chris Rasick. And today, as always, we're going to chat a few pieces of news that should be interesting to you guys, and take any of your questions about anything relating to Amazon, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, or wholesale. I see we got a few people here. So, Chris, how's your week been?
Week's going pretty good. It's funny. I always chuckle. I highly doubt I'm the only person that does this, but like the months that have a 31st day, like I aggressively watch when I pull up Seller Central on mobile, that the percentage from last month, because there's an extra day. like you can make up some serious ground in that last vanity metric. So, but I am a little bit psycho about that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, you'd have to look over time and plot it, but I wonder how much of a difference that extra day makes, over time. And I wonder if on those months with an extra day, like how many businesses are maybe trying to scramble, and you may not have, business stuff, but if you're heavy in like office and office supplies and things like that, do you see a little extra because people are like, oh, I got a bonus day this month. I need to make sure that the budget's taken care of, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it could be works both ways, I guess. You're paying extra interest on any loans that you took, on your business, and so salaried people work for free,
right?
Depending on how you look at
it. Gina, Flamingo, Jamie, what's going on? Now, before we dive in today, I'd like to share with you the sponsor this week. This week's sponsor is revROI. In our latest podcast, in which I completely fumbled the rollout, Chris and I discussed the importance of discount gift cards. We talked about cash back. We talked about rewards, credit cards, sales, and coupons. But more importantly, we discussed the benefit of kind of stacking all of these together and manufacturing your margins, because, margins are manufactured. They're not just given. But the biggest downside of all of this is the annoying pop-ups on every single page from Honey, Capital One Shopping, Rakuten, Top Cashback, and every other of the 99 extensions you've got installed, which is why I created revROI years ago when I first got into online arbitrage. It's a very simple extension. It helps you find the best cash back, helps you find the best discount gift cards for any site that you're on without a single pop-up, but you still get a small little notification up in the URL bar letting you know how many different places there are for cashback and discount gift cards. And it costs you absolutely nothing. It is free to install. You can grab it for yourself over at cleartheshelf.com/revROI, REVROI, cleartheshelf.com/revROI. And Jerry, you bring up a really great point here. What the heck am I doing without a ball cap on? A couple of things. I have been putting off for months going and getting a new driver's license with my new address on it, and I had to handle that today. And then I piggybacked because I left the house, which is also another weird thing. So I piggybacked that with having to go to the bank and deal with a banker. And so I was like, well, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to put on as close to a collared shirt as I'm comfortable with wearing. And I'm actually put a little bit of product in my hair. And I was incredibly productive. I even went and got a haircut after all of that. I'm going to have to go to bed at like 7:00 tonight because it was very people-y. So
it's curious. You got the haircut after.
I did. It was poor planning. I should have done it before, but I was like, well, I'm out. and I've been putting off a haircut for a couple of weeks. Why don't we go take care of that as well? So,
did you now? What kind of face do you make on the driver's license?
Oh, I don't smile. It's just a very, it's a mugshot face. I want to make sure that my driver's license matches my mugshot when I do get arrested.
Yeah, I asked because I always laughed every time I think about it. I had a buddy that he scowls in his driver's license picture, and he will tell you that the reason is so that when the cops see it, they know not to F with him.
That's funny.
How well it works is the jury's still out on that.
Yeah, I'd love to know if he tests that on a regular basis or not.
Right.
So there's a lot of news out of Amazon, and I didn't have to go very far shopping for this news. Normally we've got stuff from from Forbes or from other sites. There's 3 pieces of news here. I've got 5 in total, but if we go through all 5, we're not going to get to any ASIN reviews this week. So the first one is the peak readiness and timelines for FBA capacity limits for Q4 have already been sent out to Amazon sellers. I went back 2 years, and this is the earliest that they have ever issued this proclamation from on high. I have seen it in September in the past. I've seen it in late August, but I've never seen it in July. So, and what they say is, we know that the busy holiday season is approaching, which means it's time to start sending in your inventory. We want you to succeed this holiday season, yada, yada, yada. Inventory must arrive at our fulfillment centers by October the 19th to guarantee it's prime badge ready for Black Friday. Now, we have to remember that Amazon is typically speaking to brand owners and things like that when they put these out there. So they're talking about people who expect a much larger amount of sales over 1 or 2 or 10 different SKUs for a holiday buying season. Okay. They're not necessarily talking directly to the RA and OA folks, or even folks who are doing wholesale across a wide variety of SKUs. Okay. However, it is possible that inbound shipments will be slower, and it seems like they're already expecting it. They also went on to say that they plan on having their fulfillment centers focus on receiving during September and October. And then in November and December, they're going to shift their focus to customer orders or outbound. Now, here's something that I've never seen before from Amazon. They said, and I quote, "We'll have limited spots to accept your shipments at our fulfillment centers during November and December. This seasonal shift helps us ensure faster delivery speeds and maximizes your sales potential during the holidays. Also, you may see lower estimated capacity limits for October and November. On average, the estimated capacity limits for October and November can help provide enough storage for 6 months of inventory." In the past, they've actually said the exact opposite. They said that you should see increased capacity limits for October and November. So this very plainly says to me, because we do have to read between the lines a little bit, but to me, the writing in between the lines is Amazon let us know that they shifted to that flywheel approach to outbound shipping, that speed is crucial. And it seems like they're going to be doubling down on that in Q4. They don't want the complaints that they've had in the past of shipments taking a long time to get to the customer during the holiday season. So, to me, this actually reeks of opportunity. Because a lot of the stuff that people are going to want in Q4, we don't know yet. There are going to be products that get really hot. They're going to be bolos. There's going to be toy that there's going to be the toy or a handful of the toys this Q4. And if you plan on using FBA, you may not be able to get it in there if you are trying to fulfill that late November and December rush. So this often means that the algorithm will seem to tend to favor merchant fulfilled sellers, and MFers may get the buy box a little bit more often. So we say it every year, but you need to prepare to be a merchant fulfilled seller in Q4 of this year, maybe more than you would have in the past.
Yeah, man, that's not what I want to hear.
Right.
So tell me,
ahead.
all right, what I'm hung up on is the one sentence where they talk about we'll have limited slots to accept your shipments at our fulfillment centers during November and December.
That is fascinating to me.
Yes. Why did they feel the need to include that? Like what is that foreshadowing?
To me, it means one of two things, or maybe both. If we take this in the realm of they're talking to brand owners and they're talking to people who are going to be shipping in full truckloads, or I guess even LTL, where you've got to have an appointment to drop off a load of product, does this mean there are going to be limited slots available for those appointments? Or does this mean we're going to be closing down our fulfillment centers to any inbound shipments at times? And are we going to see, like we did in 2020, are we going to see our inbound shipment creation turned off in Q4? They really should. I wish that they could answer that, but I would imagine they want to give themselves the leeway depending on how packed their fulfillment centers are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is it's very strange. My first thought was they're kind of setting the groundwork for really long processing for FBA shipments. You know,
that's what it sounds like to me.
And yeah, it gives them the freedom to, like you said, either shut it down for periods of time while they work on getting stuff out to the customers, or skeleton crew at the very most at certain points.
So I see Flamingo and I see Luke. Should I even source in November and December? Yeah, you should. And Luke, I know a little bit more about your situation, but my opinion is you need to either decide that you're going to merchant fulfill, and well, yes, you could do 0-day handling time and things like that if you want to. It's not necessary. You will still get sales, or you need to right now in July and August, you need to find a prep center that will accept someone that will accept people and does merchant fulfilling on your behalf. Fortunately, I've got a prep center that does FBM. They will merchant fulfill for us if we want them to. So that's not a huge deal. Cost a little bit more, but and Flamingo, I agree. I hope that turning off inbound shipments is just too drastic, but the way that Amazon writes is important. Amazon teaches all of their employees to write. And so when they write these things, we have to realize that their words mean things and their lack of words mean things. And sometimes we've got to read in between the lines a little bit. I don't know. Just prepare now.
So if they're kind of, indirectly nudging people towards FBM, that means that they're going to have to make FBM more accommodating, of course, right?
Well, that's a great segue into this next piece, because FBM is not getting more accommodating. FBM is tightening up. Now, I have seen people on social media blame the folks who talk about 0-day handling, which I tend to disagree with. I think I lay this at the feet of a couple of things. One, I lay it at the feet of people who have used fraud labels. I think they're probably more to blame. And I blame this at the feet of people who may print out a shipping label today, but not actually ship the product until 2 days from now, which, listen, I'm guilty of doing that in the past. I'm not saying that I have never done that, but it's not an option any longer. So Amazon is introducing something called the OTDR, so on-time delivery rate. Effective September 25th of 2024, you'll need to maintain a minimum 90% on-time delivery rate without promise extensions. And what they mean by promise extensions, if I read this correctly, is if there is like a natural disaster. Out in California right now, there are some wildfires because some idiot set his mother's car on fire and then rolled it out into the woods. As people will do on occasion.
Was the mother-in-law in the car?
No, and that's the thing that boggled my mind.
What a waste.
Yeah. But out in California, shipments are going to be a little bit longer, and those are promise extensions. But you have to have a 90% OTDR to have seller fulfilled products listed on Amazon. So they're going to start by addressing the sellers with the lowest OTDR performance. And they recommend that you maintain a 95% or greater on-time delivery rate for all seller fulfilled orders. Now, I'm going to read between the lines there a little bit, okay? And my guess is that they're telling us if you do merchant fulfilled, we need you to have a 90% or better. But it would be recommended that you have a 95% or better OTDR, which in my mind, it's Amazon saying if you've got 95% or better on-time delivery rate, you're probably going to get a little bit of a bump in that merchant fulfilled rotation if it's getting the buy box. Okay. They're also making some other changes. All right. This policy is not going to apply to anybody using FBA. Of course, they don't have to play by the same rules that sellers do. So, if their fulfillment rates are not as at 90% or better, you're not going to pay, the penalty for them screwing up, which that makes sense, but that's not always the way it is. So, couple other things. Transit time settings. On August 25th, Amazon's transit time requirements are going to be updated to match the delivery capabilities of shipping services that are available. If you're shipping within the lower 48, you can set a maximum transit time of 5 days for standard shipping and 8 days for free economy shipping. Okay. So no longer are the days where you can say, oh, well, if it's going to ship to California, it's going to take me 14 days to get it there. You can't do that. 5-day maximum transit time applies to all SKUs except media. So no books, magazines, and DVDs. Handling time settings on September 25th are going to change. They want to improve the accuracy of handling time. So they're going to enable automated handling time for sellers that have a manually configured handling time that is 2 or more days slower than their actual handling time. So if you have a handling time of 4 days or 3 days or whatever that is, but your actual handling time is typically 1 day, then they're going to automatically change that for you. Okay. And if you want to see what your handling time gap is, you can go to your Fulfillment Insight dashboard. You can mess around with shipping settings, automations if you want to, and things like that. But I would highly suggest that you make sure you go in and you learn everything about this. Okay. You're going to be covered whether you use manage orders, the shipping API, or Vico. I would highly suggest that you use Vico. It is a great product, probably one of the best things that Amazon's done in years and years for sellers. They've got the best rates, same as Amazon. You get some money back, and if you put your spend on certain credit cards, I think we've talked about this in the past. I think it's American Express. You get 5 times the points because it's shipping. Okay. So make sure you guys go and learn about all of this. It's going to be a big deal, especially if you do a lot of merchant fulfilled selling.
So the question is, and we can run 2 different scenarios because Christy has the other scenario in the chat. What do you think is the right way to ramp up for this? Right. So if FBM, if we're kind of handcuffed based on the FBA news, like, so me, I've never been an MFer, despite what my wife calls me, but if that needs a change for Q4, what's the step? Like, should I list one item and go into Q4 with 100%, or do I need the reps? Or what does somebody inexperienced at FBM do to ramp up, do you think?
I would say that if someone is inexperienced, they probably need some reps to make sure how do I create the orders? How do I, do I have all my supplies? Do I have a nice little workflow? And things like that. So I would probably try to get some reps in. Find something that's low risk, that sells a lot, that maybe doesn't cost a ton of money, and that you can pretty clearly break even on, worst case scenario, if you're going to ship it. And the reason I say get some reps in is because probably going to want to figure out what shipping is going to cost for the different places that you're going to have to ship to, so you can kind of have that in your mind. Because if you're going to do any hybrid arbitrage, you're going to do any retail arbitrage during that high period, the shipping will screw you if you can't say, oh, well, this is 3 pounds, it's 6 by 6 by 6, it's probably going to cost me $12 to ship ground. So that's what I would do. I would get some reps in now.
Okay. And then Christy's spin on it. What if you're currently below 90%? Is it same? Is it volume to get that up, or what would you suggest there?
You should have time between now and then for the OTDR to go back and kind of, because it's only going to be over a certain period of time, just like your order defect rate is on merchant fulfilled shipments. It's going to be like for the last 2 weeks or whatever it is. So chances are you'll have time for your OTDR to fix itself. And it's not going into effect until November the 1st. Or sorry, nope. I'm sorry. I was looking at the next piece of news. September 25th. So you got a little over a month. But if you're really worried about that, I would go and I would find something like Jello or Kool-Aid or something small and light that sells fast, and I would list them up for sale. Make sure that you're break even or better on them, and try to just get out as many as you possibly can. That way you've got a little bit of a buffer. I've shipped out 200 units of an item. So, okay, well, I've got X amount that I can screw up on, and I'll still be at 95% or better.
The key is with Jello and Kool-Aid, pre-mixed. You want to stick with the powder, don't you? You don't want to make the Kool-Aid and then ship it out. It's big difference.
People get really irritated when you try to send them a gallon of Kool-Aid in a poly mailer.
Yeah, you try to bring the lemonade stand to modern times, and you get crucified for it.
I know. All right. So the third piece of news that I've got is an update on reimbursement automation. So on November 1st, Amazon says that they're going to start proactively reimbursing people you guys, sellers, for FBA items that are lost in their fulfillment centers. They're going to issue that reimbursement as soon as an item is reported as lost by the fulfillment center, which you can track in your reimbursement reports on Seller Central. This is supposed to be a seamless experience. It's going to save you time and save you money by minimizing the need to manually research and file claims for lost items. Kind of sounds like they just get irritated with, the Get-A-Does and other services of the world, in my opinion. But almost all reimbursement claims related to warehouse lost and damaged and customer returns cases are now going to be proactively reimbursed. However, if you don't receive an automatic reimbursement and you think that you're eligible for one, you'll have to file a manual claim. So those companies are not going to totally go out of business because they'll be able to help you file those manual claims, but there's more. All right. Starting on October 23rd, Amazon is changing their eligibility window. As of right now, you can go back like 18 months. Going forward, all manual claims must be submitted within the following timelines. Fulfillment center operations claims for items that are lost or damaged in an FC must be submitted no later than 60 days after the item was reported lost or damaged. An FBA customer return claim can be submitted between 60 and 120 days after the customer refund or replacement date. All right. So you get 60 days to file that claim, but it has to be after 60 days. Okay. Claims cannot be submitted before the 60 days, which right now it's actually like 45, I think, is what you can do, because they've got to make sure the customer has time to return the item for processing. A removal claim for items lost in transit can be submitted 15 to 75 days from the shipment creation date. Claims must not be submitted before the 15 days to ensure the shipment can be delivered back to you. And then all other removal claims must be filed within 60 days of the shipment being delivered back to you. This plainly sucks. If you've been a seller for a while and you have not gone back and looked through potential reimbursements up to 18 months, you need to start doing it now. You need to try to get as much money back that Amazon may owe you right this minute. Going forward, you are going to want to be on top of this. Chances are, there's two ways to look at this. One, it's Amazon trying to shut down reimbursement companies. The other way to look at this may be a huge boon to reimbursement companies because it's their job to make sure to stay on top of this stuff. And if you've got such a small window and you don't have a good process in place, then you're going to want to have someone else who does have a good process in place on your team. So you've got a short amount of time to figure a couple of things out. One, figure out that you can do this on your own and exactly how to do all these things. Two, hire an admin team member to handle this for you, and it's their job and responsibility, and you lay it on their shoulders, and they know exactly what they can do and how to do it and what time frames to do this in. Or three, go hire a service that knows that they're going to be absolutely on top of this, and they're going to be able to file the right things properly. And if you want one, Kim and Perry, we've had Kim and Perry on the show. They have a service. I'm sure they're going to be on top of this as long as they decide to keep the doors open for that business. And then there's a few others. True Ops. I'm sure True Ops is going to be all over this, and they only charge 10%. Kim and Perry charge a flat monthly fee, so you have to decide which one of those is worth it for you. So
I think one thing for sure is we will find out the cream of the crop as far as reimbursement company is.
Mm-hmm.
We'll find out who's worth it and who might not be. Okay. So what would you say? Because here's where I'm wondering is if now let's assume that Amazon is proactive, and they reimburse everything, right? What do you think your percentage of potential reimbursement claims versus actual claims that get filed for reimbursement? Is that 100%?
I doubt it.
Yeah, because that was my instinct too. So being proactive and automatically reimbursing us, there's a little bit extra money there, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess if you need to bright side this, it is possible that this is a net gain based on the automated and proactive reimbursements, correct?
It could be. The net gain could be two things. One, we're giving Amazon a lot of leeway here by assuming that they do this perfectly and they're generous in their reimbursements to sellers. Let's say that that's the case. Well, it's going to save sellers a lot of money and headache because they don't have to deal with these things. They're going to want to double check, make sure Amazon's doing it right, but they're going to save them, could be 25%. Some of the companies charge 25% of what they get back. That's, for some sellers, that's a significant amount of money. I know sellers, I've talked to sellers who have gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in a year reimbursed to them. That could be an extra $10, $20, $25,000 to their bottom line if Amazon is really good. On the other hand, if Amazon does an 80% good job and then you need to go out and fight for the extra 20%, then it might also still be a net positive. You pay less in fees to your company if you're hiring a company, and they still get to keep their doors open. They just have to work a little bit harder for their margins.
Okay. And the big catch is what happens if when Amazon decides they need to claw back some of the reimbursements.
That's the reason why I like True Ops, is because True Ops will reimburse you for any clawbacks.
Nice. Okay. Because I could see that getting ugly if it runs off the rails.
Oh yeah. There a lot of those companies out there. They're like, hey, once we got it back, that's it. That's we get paid our commission. I'm sure True Ops doesn't cut you a check. They probably give you some sort of credit. And that's, in the past, that's always been a reason why I've said it's not a bad idea to use a service that just charges a flat fee. They've got to do the job, and there's you just pay the flat fee. If they get you more, great. It's a smaller percentage of what you get back. If you have a down month, okay, so your percentage is a little bit higher, but there's your incentives are. I think the incentives are aligned, and the incentives are aligned with True Ops a little bit more as well, because they only want to go after the ones that they're absolutely going to get you back and not a huge chance of it being clawed back. So,
at least Amazon's making it nice and simple headed into Q4.
Right. So I know that we've had, this is three big pieces of news, but there's another whopper out there that we should probably talk about. And there's going to be, and I didn't even put it on our sheet, so this is going to be off the cuff. The CPSC, the consumer, or the CSPC, Consumer Safety Product Council. They have decided and have written, which, this is basically law now, if I understand the way this works correctly, that Amazon is not just a go-between between third-party sellers and the customer. Amazon is responsible for products that are faulty and things like that. Like a Amazon has always stated in the past, that's the manufacturer's issue. We're not on the hook. That's what your manufacturer warranty is for. Since the Consumer Safety Product Council has changed this, I would imagine that coming down the pike very soon is going to be more responsibility to the seller for any faulty products, recalled products, those kind of things. Now, chances are this is going to impact brand owners more than it's going to impact arbitrage sellers. However, if Amazon were to get sued, which they can now get sued over these things, okay? If Amazon gets sued, let me tell you who's probably going to get thrown under the bus if it's sold by a third-party seller. It's the third-party seller. Oh, yeah, sure, you can name us in the suit, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to give you the name of the third-party seller that sold this product that put a burn mark on someone's neck if you sold a curling iron, or, made someone's their stomach upset because you sold a supplement, or, all the other things that you could get sued for. They're probably just going to say, hey, you know what? You should also call Chris into this lawsuit. So because of this change, I would highly suggest that if you already have insurance for your business, make sure that it covers you properly. Okay. A lot of people always ask, oh, what's the cheapest insurance I can get? And, people will say, oh, well, I'm here and I'm there and I'm only paying $25 a month. Cheap and good are two different things, especially when it comes to insurance. So you want to make sure that you're going to be covered if you are named in a lawsuit, and that you get an insurance company representation. So, you get a lawyer hired by the insurance company. You want to make sure that you've got product liability. You want to make sure that you're covered if, something sets someone's house on fire that you've sold. And you want to make sure that you're covered across all the categories that you sell. Okay. A lot of the people who tell me, oh, well, I'm paying $25 a month, I know where they're getting their insurance. And my guess is that a lot of those folks don't tell people, or don't tell the insurance company, that they're selling consumables like vitamins or groceries, and they're selling topicals like, lotion or makeup. And those things are specifically excluded from at least one or two carriers that I'm aware of. And that's a huge deal. Those are the things that worry me the most. I know that if a curling iron sets someone's house on fire, I'm covered for that. I'm mostly concerned what happens if someone gets sick, if they consume a product that I sell, or if they have damage to their skin because they put something on their skin. So I've already checked with my insurance carrier. I would highly suggest that you do the same.
Who would do something like that? Who would just exclude a category that you sell to an insurance company just to get a cheap policy? I don't know. Was my hand up? Sorry.
Yeah, it's this one's gonna be weird. I know, there were some changes years ago. That's what made Amazon get so tight on the insurance at $10,000 a month. And with this change happening, I mean, shit rolls downhill, and we're at the bottom of the hill as sellers.
Yeah, I mean it's one thing when everybody, Amazon says anybody selling more than 10,000 needs a policy. It's one thing to just get something in place just to appease Amazon, but this is a pretty significant change, and this brings in the very real possibility that your insurance policy as a third-party seller may get some exercise. So so you're right. You're exactly right. It's very important to make sure that you have what you need instead of just having a deck page to send in every year.
Yeah. I have had conversations with some of the folks at one of the well-known insurance companies that Amazon sellers use. I've asked them to be on the podcast. I haven't gotten a yes from them. I have an insurance background, so I'm probably going to reach out to some contacts that I have in the insurance business. And this is something we'll probably we'll probably get an insurance professional on the podcast to talk about this and make sure that people know what kind of coverage they need to have.
That'd be useful.
All right. Last little thing before we start answering questions. There's a little bit of good news out of the topicals category. It seems that Amazon is going to be doing away with all generic product detail pages. So if it's a generic listing, it seems like Amazon's going to be dog paging it here pretty soon. There's an email that went out and said, hey, if you have any generic listings, get off of them, and we're doing away with them. So hopefully that starts creeping across the other categories, but it seems like they're starting with topical for some reason.
Yeah, maybe a volume thing, but I mean, it was already in place that, I mean, you couldn't add products that were listed as generic if you hadn't sold them before already, right?
Right.
So, I mean, this is just just kind of a closure thing at this point, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine too. All right. How do you think the new Amazon discount store for Chinese manufacturers will affect the ecosystem? But we have chatted about this in the past, and this is a good question. My knee-jerk reaction was this was going to be a net negative for Amazon sellers. But Jassim, who is someone we've had on the podcast, he made a post on Twitter, and it made me rethink my stance. I think this will be a net positive because there are people who go to places like Temu and I don't know, those other sites, and they want cheap. They want cheap things, and they're willing to wait, 14 or 20 days to get them delivered. What this will do is Amazon's already got name recognition. Temu sort of has it, okay? But Amazon's got big name recognition. So those people, I think a lot of them will come back to Amazon and say, okay, well, I can just buy from Amazon, have Amazon's protection, and I can wait the 14 to 20 days to get my item. And while they're on Amazon buying that no-name colander or, whatever it is they're getting delivered, they're also like, oh, well, I need to go ahead and I need to get some shampoo and I need to get some lotion and I need to get some, vitamins and all these other things that they are going to buy name brand of. Oh, and it's little Johnny's birthday, so I'm going to pick him up some Legos as well. That will be a net positive, in my opinion. So, and I don't, your follow-up to that was, will this change make Amazon not ungate so easily? No, I don't think that'll do anything to the ungating process whatsoever. Although there are some rumors of Amazon requiring 100 units on some ASINs if you're using an Amazon receipt, which I thought was crazy. Gina, we have a strange incident of mass gating for sellers previously ungated happening in Canada. Is anything like this happening in the US? We have seen this over the past couple of months with lots of brands getting gated and then becoming ungated or requiring to be ungated yet again. I would wait a week or two to see what settles down before you worry about it too much. How am I ever supposed to pay myself if I'm always maxing out the credit cards? Is there ever a time where I'm not maxing cards out? I mean, getting into this business and thinking that you're ever going to pull out profits. No, I kid. You probably need to work on handling that cash flow a little bit. And I mean, if you're in a growth phase, then no, you're always going to be maxing out your credit cards and paying them off and maxing them out and paying them off. But there is something to be said to kind of allow there to be a little bit of an ebb and a flow. Max out the credit cards, pay them off, and then maybe go for a month or two without maxing those credit cards out. if you want to pull a little bit of profit out. It just depends on what your goal is. Make sure you've got really good bookkeeping. Make sure you know how much profit there is. If you need to dip into a little bit of the profit and pull out to pay yourself, that's okay. It's okay not to grow 100% every month and put a little bit of money in your pocket. And for more than one reason. One, because it'll make you feel good and it'll keep you motivated to continue doing this. But two, you may not need to have gas thrown on the fire every single second of every single day.
Yeah, and depending on the volume, you do have cash back. You've got credit card rewards, you've got extensions, you've got your Racketons, your top cash back. Those are gray area as far as on the books or off the books, depending on what kind of CPA philosophy, whoever does your taxes, whatever they have going on. And then Ian, I immediately thought of Corey, who just wrapped up his wholesale challenge. He puts his salary, and that's a business expense. Big businesses have payroll, right? That is a thing. Now if you're a solopreneur, doing this on your own, it also falls on you to cover all of your expenses and move towards a profit and keep your debts paid. But that might be the attitude that, if you're frustrated, you're doing the volume. That's a legitimate expense that proper businesses have. So you can look at it that way.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Do I need an LLC for FBA? The answer is no, you don't. Fatimata, I'm gonna guess that you're here in the US. Okay. And if that's the case, we have this great thing in the US where you can just say, I'm a business, and you open up shop and you are a business. It's called sole proprietorship. That's no problem whatsoever. I would suggest that very quickly, if that's a stumbling block for you, whether the money to open up an LLC or anything like that, if that's a stumbling block, get to work. But I would legitimize the business as quickly as possible. It's important. You want to separate things out and things like that, and it is important. Now, there's a little bit of liability there that you can help yourself with as well. Chris, you were talking about cash back and it being on the books or off the books. My undershirt says legalized tax fraud under here. Is a workaround FBM from your prep center if capacity becomes an issue? Yeah, that's what my plan is. Personally, it will be merchant fulfilled from a prep center. And if their handling times are too far off, we'll suck it up. And I've got 2 kids who will pack boxes and poly mailers.
Happy holidays, kids.
All right.
Get your ass to
work. Gonna earn those Christmas presents this year. What is that prep center? You can reach out to Network Prep. They actually got an email from them today that they've got like 5 spots open. So Network Prep is where you can go. Tell them I sent you. They might give you a little bit of free prep to hop in there. What's a good FBM time frame? I don't think I want to chance 0 day if adding FBM onto existing FBA. I've never done 0 day. I've always done 1 day handling. I mean, if it takes you more than 24 hours to pack up a shipment to go to a customer, then I don't know if you should be doing FBM. I think you should be able to get it out within 24 hours. If you know that you're not going to be able to, like, for example, I had some stuff that we were merchant fulfilling. I went on vacation. I set all of my merchant fulfilled to vacation 12 hours before we got on the road and left, just to make sure we didn't have any things come through. We talked about Christie's. Luke, hazmat can't be done through Vico, right? I didn't see that option specifically, although I did see they have the exact same rate plan as Pirate Ship did for. You can do hazmat through Vico, yes, because that shipping is not, well, actually, you know what? Now I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, no, you can. You can ship hazmat through Vico because you can ship hazmat directly to a customer through Amazon. You just have to ship it properly. So, lithium ion batteries can't go air, neither can flammable stuff or explosives or anything like that. It all needs to be shipped ground. You need to make sure you have the right stickers on the side of it. This way up. Most 95% or more of what people are going to ship out hazmat are going to have those limited quantity diamond stickers on them. So as long as you have those and you're shipping ground, you should be able to use Vico, no problem. Oh, remember when you couldn't sell toys merchant fulfilled if you hadn't sold 25 FBM in the last 2 or 3 months? I do. That was awesome. We merchant fulfilled so many toys that year. Almost didn't make it. I think they did that 2 years in a row. I would not be upset if Amazon did that again. See, we talked about that. Let's see. Jerry, I've hired a person on the East Coast to do all of my FBM that goes to the East Coast, and I have an employee here on the West Coast doing the same. That's a great idea. Xenia, I just got the email to enroll in remote fulfillment. Is this something I should do or opt out of? I'm not sure how beneficial it can be. It's probably fine. If Amazon's going to handle all of it, then it's probably not a huge deal. And maybe you get a sale to Brazil or something like that. Actually, one of my favorite sales was to a buyer from Brazil a long time ago. So probably not going to hurt. I haven't turned mine off. Luke, have either of you or do you know anyone who's had to exercise their policies? I don't.
Nope, me either.
Jamie, I'm a new seller and I don't have insurance yet. When should I get that? I would go get the insurance now. You're starting a business. If you're going to take it seriously, if you don't plan on being gone in 30 or 60 days, go grab the insurance. My insurance costs $50 a month. If I don't pay if I pay it monthly rather than annually, it's $600 a year. I expect that it's going to go up at renewal, not because I've used it or anything, but that's just the nature of insurance. But it's a business expense. It's something you're going to need to have anyway. And I would rather be protected than you have to pay for an attorney or any kind of damages out of pocket. Because see, if you lose money in court, if a court says, oh, well, you need to pay $50,000, I mean, you have to pay it, period. Like, they'll put you on a pay plan, but you can't just not pay it. What's your take on the Section 3 account reviews on a high percent of sellers? I think that a high percent of sellers is very subjective. There are 2 million sellers on the Amazon platform. But what happens is that when people feel that they've been accosted, they get very, very loud. And then they'll find each other and they group together, and it seems like a really big crowd of people have gotten Section 3s. However, I do think that there are more coming out, than they have in the past. I think it's for a lot of reasons. I think it's because of things like fraud labels. I think it's because of things like people selling counterfeit products. I think it's because of news articles about the theft rings, that law enforcement has gotten a couple of this year. Big ones, millions and millions of dollars worth of product. So I think all of that, Amazon is trying to take a proactive approach to make sure that sellers on the platform are legit.
And pending FTC cases.
I feel so used. Is doing Amazon to Amazon a good way of beating IP complaints in Section 3s? I don't think that it's any better than buying from other legitimate sources. If you're buying from Nike.com, you're buying from Dick's, Kohl's, those kind of places, I don't think that you should have an issue. Now, with IP complaints, if they're inauthentic, what is that? What's the wording they use? Counterfeit without a test buy. Your receipts should do the trick. If it's a trademark infringement, that's going to be different. That one's harder to get around. Same with Section 3s. As long as you have legitimate receipts, invoices, confirmations, delivery drop-off receipts, all that stuff, you should be just fine. How often do your products end up tanking in price? What percentage of your catalog end up tanking? What's one thing you would advise a seller if many of the products they choose always seem to tank? All right. So I have not done this on my own catalog. Here's what we have done, though. Last Q4, we ran a sourcing group, and there were about 2,500 leads shared during Q4. Out of those 2,500 leads, 87.5% of them stayed profitable at $3 or more. And I hopefully these numbers are right. Someone actually did all the numbers for us. Something like 92% of the leads stayed break even or better during the time period. And then the other 8% became a net negative. If you're having a problem and lots of your items are tanking, I would do what I call a post-mortem on your products. What about those products are similar that is making them tank? Are you not lowering your cost of goods as much as you can? Are you sourcing only huge sales that everyone else knows about? So like, when Kohl's does a huge sale, like for Prime Day, is that what you sourced? And if you did that, did you not use any other ways to lower your costs further than what everyone else is doing? Are you only sourcing items that, are under 20 or 30,000 in rank or some arbitrary number? Are you going a little bit wider and trying to find products that have a history of a stable buy box or is increasing in price over time? There's a lot of things that you should think about when it comes to, if 60 or 80% of your products are tanking.
And Jeffrey, listen to our latest podcast episode. Make sure you're I only say that half joking. I mean, it's good advice because we talk about lowering your cost of goods as much as possible and make sure, go through like, check out the main points that we're talking about. I think we cover 5 different topics, Chris?
Yeah, 5 different topics and then a bunch of subtopics.
Yeah. And make sure that as you're buying your inventory, that you're using as many of those 5 main categories as possible. Because I have a feeling and some people that I've talked to, you kind of take the easy ones, and you grab your cash back and maybe it's a coupon code that a lead list shares with you. And that's it, you hit the place order button and you move on to the next one. That's you're leaving money on the table. That's you can frame it as you're not making as much as you should, but that also in other situations, if you have a catalog with a lot of items that seem to be tanking in price, it's also a moat to buy you time before you get into the ROIs that you don't want to see on your P&L statement. That's if you bought it cheaper than everyone else, it can tank and you're okay. So it's not necessarily profit, it's also insulation against worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Jeff, $50 for insurance. Mind if I ask you to use? I went through my local agent. I have all my insurance right now with State Farm, and they cover e-commerce businesses through their BOP or business owners policy. And so I went through them after making sure that everything was covered. They assured me that they cover consumables, they cover topicals, they cover clothing. I can sell literally anything, and I'm covered. I'm also covered for product liability. I'm covered for lawsuits, all of that good stuff. And I just rolled it up into all of my other policies with them. And it's like, I think it's 600 or 650 a year. And I see that Nate Ricks is shouting out Ashlyn Haddon here. Ashlyn is great. She's a great resource for sellers. She's been in the insurance game a long, long time. All Day FBA, what is a fraudulent label? So a fraudulent label, and this is something that we've talked about in the past, that the Postal Service is cracking down on. Although there's going to be, people are going to figure out ways around it. But fraudulent label is typically a label that has been used in the past, and then someone sells it again, or it's a label that is fraudulent. It works and it gets through, and typically it's like half the price, so they pay like $3 or $5 for these labels to ship out 15-pound items to customers. It's a federal offense to use them, but some people take the chance, and a lot of times you have to buy them with like crypto or gift cards. You're buying labels with crypto or gift cards to ship out products. You know that you're probably doing something you shouldn't be doing. What report should we pull in Seller Central to check all my reimbursements, and which are the ones I need to file for reimbursement? It's too much to get into today, but I'll tell you what I'll do is next week on our live at 5, I will have a guide written that everyone can download for free. That's what I'll do. Chris, would it be possible to include an insurance checklist in an upcoming newsletter? Yeah, I'll get with my insurance agent, or I'll reach out to Ashlyn, and we'll come up with something, and we'll get somebody on the podcast to talk insurance. That will not be a dry podcast at all. All right, we're about an hour into this. Typically, we go over some ASINs, but Chris and I have families who sort of like to see us on occasion. But Chris, I don't know if I've told you in the past, but when I can't sleep, I tend to read things that are a bit on the boring side. I've read about the history of broccoli. I've read about the history of chess. But last night I was reading about the most abundant bug in the entire world. They're ants. Did you know that you can tell the gender of an ant by dropping it in water?
Really?
Yeah. Female ants, they're more dense, and so they sink. But when an ant floats, it's buoyant.
Terrific. This is it's like an accidental theme of these real or imaginary animal documentaries that we're running on chimpanzees and beavers last week. Now we're on ants. We cover horses. You had that tweet about watching the Olympics as motivation.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of keyed in on the drive. And which whether if you're not into the Olympics, if you start watching it and you catch some of those vignettes and backstories and whatnot, I mean that's a quick recipe to start getting into it. That's what some of these people do to get there is incredible. But I was thinking about it, and I realized I never really thought about transportation, right? But I found the like equestrian teams, from
Mhm.
like this hemisphere have to be transported. And I heard that the Canadian Olympic equestrian team, they actually fly their horses in a jumbo jet. They
That's
flew them
crazy.
over to Paris. Yeah. And the jumbo jet, of course, was called Air Horse One.
There it is.
Sound effect is here.
You guys now have a rim shot and a little bit of a laugh track available from here on out. All right, guys, that's it for us this week. Make sure to like and subscribe to protect yourself from horses like my wife does. All right, guys, have a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 5.